Well, boys and girls, ladies and gentlemen, it's one of them situations where there's a reason why we generally listen to the rumor mill. It's why we pay attention to it. It's why we listen to what they say, because more often than not, at least especially in the modern era, especially when you have an industry, whether it be video games or Hollywood, that is very dissatisfied with what's going on, especially at the top and especially in management and storytelling. And honestly, just the results of all of their hard work ends up going up in flames because of people that they have no control over end up making decisions. Well, we end up having a lot of insiders that come out and say things. And the reason why a lot of the rumors have ended up becoming very true lately is because of that exact same kind of thing. So that's why we listen to the rumor. That's why we pay attention to it, because more often than not, it's right. And the rumor about Unreal Engine requiring a lot of the diversity, equity, and inclusion nonsense that we've seen over the years is one of them situations where we've been hearing about this for a while and that we thought that was eventually going to end up coming. And while now it looks like, sad to say, because Unreal Engine is something that so many video game companies and so many designers out there have had a great time to use. It's something that's very user friendly. It gives you a lot of great options. It's a very powerful platform that they've made very readily accessible for the average person out there to create and go out there and do something with. And it's something that people have created a lot of amazing things with. And some of those things have set the indie video game world on storm. While it's sad to see that they are now going down the same path as a lot of the other mainstream video game industry, the diversity, inclusion, and equity that we know it all ends up leading to. And sad to say, this might end up putting a death nail to the Unreal Engine as well. And that's a sad thing to see because, ladies and gentlemen, as you can see here from our dear sweet article over at Bounding Into Comics, our wonderful Spencer McCooley, Unreal Engine coding standards require video game studios to use inclusive language in programming and documentation. Well, here we go, ladies and gentlemen. It is a sad thing to see. So we're going to get into all the juicy details. We're going to let you know exactly what's going on with this and whether or not you need to make the decision as to try, if you're a video game developer out there, try to find a new engine to use. And shout out to my boy Jim Bowden75 out there on Twitter, aka X, for bringing this up to me and asking me all these questions about this, because we're covering this one specifically just for him, because I can't wait to see his video game. But before we do, if you do enjoy our content, make sure you hit that like button, share it with all your friends, subscribe and or follow if you have not already. And let us know what you think about this and whether or not you as a video game guy will end up trying to find a new platform to create your video game on. Improving that identity politics to have quite literally seeped into the very DNA of video games, Epic Games is taken to encouraging developers who use their popular Unreal Engine to employ inclusive language in their respective titles' programming codes. And as we always know, it starts out as encouragement. It starts out as a suggestion before it becomes a requirement. That's how these things always start. That's why the slippery slope argument is currently undefeated in the modern era. First added to the engine's official coding standards with the April 2022 release of the tool's 5th version and recently brought to light courtesy of the April 2024 update, this new inclusive word choice clause sees Epic Games encourage a curious word choice, given that they consider the following of said standards to be mandatory. Oh, look how quickly that changed. Users to use respectful, inclusive, and professional language when writing or documenting a given piece of code. How do you write inclusive language about programming code? I mean, basically at the end of the day, it all comes down to ones and zeros, essentially, right? I mean, I'm no programmer by any means. You guys let me know, but like, seriously? Word choice applies when you name classes, functions, data structures, types, variables, files, and folders, and plugins. Oh, so literally every aspect of your game now has to comply to this, right down to your file folders. It applies when you write snippets of user-facing text for the UI, error messages, and notifications. It also applies when writing about code, such as in comments and change list descriptions. Oh, really? Now, how far back do you think they're going to retroactively apply this to? Or do you think they'll be good little stewards of the Unreal Engine and just make this applicable to everything going forward? How long before they try to go back and censor your game that you created on their Unreal Engine? I don't know what kind of rights they have to that kind of stuff, but I would imagine there's something that they can pull on that end. To this end, Epic Games has provided guidance as to what words devs should and should not use in their writing. Do not use metaphors or similes that reinforce stereotypes. Examples include contrast black and white, or blacklist and whitelist. Oh, poor thing. A color is now offensive and is not longer inclusive. I mean, at least they are willing to add the whitelist aspect into there, because apparently that's not okay too. So at least it's not a complete and total double standard. But as we always know, how these things are actually applied, don't we? Don't use words that refer to historical trauma or lived an experience of discrimination. Examples include slave, master, and nuke. So wait a minute. If I want to make a historically accurate game on the Unreal Engine based basically at any time in history, depending on what region of the world you want to apply it to, even in the modern era right now, go look at the African slave trade. You can't use those words to accurately describe. You can't use the dictionary definition of a word to accurately describe your video game. So what if I'm making a video game about the slave trade or the Underground Railroad? What if I'm making a game starring Harriet Tubman praising and promoting her glorious experts and the courage she had as a woman during that time to accomplish all of the things she did with the Underground Railroad? I can't use the words slave and master. Me thinks that's going to be problematic. Me thinks that might be a problem. Yeah. Turning to gender-related language, Epic Games advises devs to refer to hypothetical people as they, them, and their, even in the singular, which once again makes no sense when you're actually talking about the English language. But of course, boys and girls, they want a reality where 2 + 2 = 5. Up is down, down is up, white is black, black is right, and right is wrong, and wrong is right. But we all know that, don't we, boys and girls? And anything that is the person as it and its. For example, a module, a plugin, function, client, server, or any other software or hardware component. So, God forbid we use gendered language to describe technologies or servers. Further, users are asked to not assign a gender to anything that doesn't have one, nor use collective nouns like guys that assume gender. Oh my God. Did you just assume my gender? Oh my God. Oh my God. Words hurt. Words hurt. And also take care to avoid colloquial phrases that cause arbitrary genders, like a poor man's ex. Oh, so you got to say a poor people's ex? Oh, this is so stupid. Regarding slang, the standards call on devs to remember that your words are being read by a global audience that may not share the same idioms and attitudes, or who might understand these same cultural references. Well, how about you not try to apply your American woke cultural standards to other countries' cultures? How about you try that? Maybe thinking about that when you respect other cultures. But no, because you know better. You're smarter than everyone else. Your standards are the best standards, aren't they? By the way, try non-gendering the Spanish language and let me know how that works out for you. And thus to avoid slang and colloquialisms, even if you think they are funny or harmless, as these may be hard to understand for people whose first language is not English and might not translate well. And of course, devs are also warned to not use profanity. Oh, the poor baby can't say fuck. This is stupid. Continuing the standards next asks Unreal Engine users to consider the use of overloaded words and many terms that we use for their technical meanings, but also have other meanings outside of technology. Examples include abort, execute, or native. Even those are literal programming code words that have very specific definitions. When you use words like these, always be precise and examine the context in which they appear. Oh, words hurt! Words hurt my soul. Finally, the inclusive word choice clause also to some terminology that Epic Games should be replaced with better alternatives. Blacklist includes deny list, block list, avoid list, unapproved list, forbidden list, and permission list. Whitelist includes list, trust list, safe list, prefer list, approval list, or permission list. I didn't even know whitelist meant that it was good. Master, primary, source, control, template, reference, main, leader, original, base, and slave, secondary, replica, agent, follower, worker, cluster mode, locked, linked, and synchronized. Once again, does not work for historical references. Ultimately, Epic Games closes out the text of this new standard by assuming the public that they are actively working to bring our code in line with the principles laid out above. So yes, they will retroactively be going after absolutely everything for this. Boys and girls, this is insanity. This is absolutely stupid. This is trying to put modern sensibilities that are not even the majority of the modern era's sensibilities into literally your programming code and making it impossible to historically accurately create a game. This is dumb, this is retarded, and this could very well end up spelling the end of the Unreal Engine, because not only is this going to make it more difficult to use the Unreal Engine, because now you have to walk on eggshells, whereas guys that have used this kind of programming code and this kind of programming language for literal decades will have to now rethink every single step that they do, causing things to take even longer to produce, are simply not going to bother. They're going to convert them things over to other platforms that maybe don't work as well, don't have as many as cool options as Unreal Engine, but are easier and more simple to use. I know, as a guy that does video editing, when I tried switching over to, even the DaVinci stuff or the Adobe stuff, especially the DaVinci stuff, it just wasn't what I was comfortable with. It didn't work as well as, yes, by on the stats and figures, is it more powerful and can it do more things? Yes, but I'm more comfortable with what I know how to use. And that's going to happen to a lot of programmers out there as well. They're not going to want to bother having to change their own language coding in order to apply with Unreal's new Unreal and unrealistic standards. They're going to move on. They're going to find something else that's going to work out. Just like we saw Google's AI get completely and totally mocked and ridiculed and unused on the internet because they try to do inclusive language and all the DIE nonsense into their own programming code. You'll see the exact same thing happen with Unreal. And it's sad to say out there, because Unreal has created some incredible indie games and a lot of developers have loved to use its properties. But at the end of the day, that's what happens. We've lost a lot in the video game industry and in Hollywood because of this kind of DIE nonsense. And guess what? It looks like, unfortunately, Unreal is going to go the exact same way. So shout out to whoever becomes the next big thing, because Unreal is clearly leaving you a very big opportunity by going the exact same way as all of the rest of Hollywood in the video game industry with all of this inclusivity nonsense, and they will end up losing for it. So by all means, go out there, take advantage, and become the next Unreal Engine, because Unreal Engine is nothing more than Unreal standards that nobody wants to put up with, and it's BS that will end up destroying their programming code.